Hello again, everybody. Welcome into Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips with Wes Mitchell here to talk Gamecock spring football. Wes, spring practice got started yesterday. Will Muschamp has spoken with the media, and media has had access to the first bit of practice here as the Gamecocks open under Will Muschamp. So it feels like a clean slate, Wes. Everybody getting to know the staff, and the staff getting its first live look at all these players. Sure, the coaches have seen film, but really it's their first live look at the Gamecock football team. So it's an important time period here for Gamecock football.
Yeah, I kind of thought to myself, sort of half joking that, I noticed the players now have their names on the back of their practice jerseys. And, I thought, well, that's a cool little perk to add that there. Then I thought, well, that might just be because the coaches and the players are still getting to know each other. And first impressions obviously are always big, and I think the first time out there for spring practice is an opportunity for these guys to make that first impression on their new coaching staff. Some, Muschamp, I've seen him say it a couple of times. Some guys, look great running a 40-yard dash, look great in the weight room, and then don't look all that great in the football field. Obviously, some guys play great in helmets with no pads, and then aren't quite as good when the real hitting begins. Obviously, South Carolina's not been able to put on the full pads and go hit yet. But obviously an important part of the process, South Carolina kicking off spring practice. And I don't know what we know yet, but as always, we will do our best to overanalyze everything we saw in that 15 minutes.
All right, very good. Wes, there's a lot of talk about the defense, and Muschamp is going to start with a four-man defensive front. And he says that he's going to sort of transition to some 3-4 looks as well. And a lot of this defensive scheme that he's implementing will center around the buck position, and it's just kind of a hybrid outside linebacker, defensive end. And you've got a piece on Gamecock Central today about this. Looks like Boozy Whitlow, is one of the leading candidates to win that job. And Boozy's looking good right now at 6'4", 240 pounds. We got video with him on the site, and it sounds like he is encouraged by the change to the scheme, and I think he likes it so far. He said he was playing more of a read position last year, and if he ends up at the buck this year, it's just going to give him more freedom to make plays and to do his own thing. So talk about that a little bit, and talk about how long it may take before the Gamecocks start to work on some 3-4 stuff. How long will they stay in the 4-3 at the start of practice here?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I always looked at the previous scheme, especially under Ellis Johnson and Lorenzo Ward, and, there's a lot of talk about Spur and how that was a hybrid safety/linebacker position. That was still relatively new, I think, when Carolina first started doing that. Now everybody seems to have a little bit of a position like that within their defense, but, that was probably the most important position in that defense at times. I think the buck, having a guy who can do all the things that position requires, probably the most important requirement in this South Carolina scheme that we're going to see South Carolina run this year, if they're able to, run the scheme that Muschamp wants to run. I think, one thing I took away from his press conference on Monday is that he said they're going to do the things that the guys are capable of doing. So, I think in theory, Muschamp probably has an idea of what he wants his defense to look like, but until you've recruited your own guys for, 2-3 recruiting cycles, you don't know yet if these guys are all going to be capable of doing that. Now, I think Boozy Whitlow, I said it on Twitter when I linked that article, I think he's a perfect fit for what they require out of that position in the system. He's battling with Darius English, of course, English, a kid that has always had a little bit of a hype around his name, but has not quite been able to find that fit that gets him on the field consistently and making plays. And I think this position actually fits him pretty well, too, certainly better than what he was asked to do previously. So that'll be something I think we have to watch consistently this spring and into the fall, is does South Carolina have what it needs in that position? Now, if you were just watching like we were when they were working on the 4-3, it really just literally looks like any other defensive end lined up. You wouldn't know just visually looking, oh, well, that's the buck position. It just looks like a regular 4-down lineman type of defense if you're just, average fan looking out there watching them line up. Now, in this scheme, if they are able to introduce some of that 3-4, basically the idea is to be able to move seamlessly from a 4-man down lineman look to a 3-man look by having that buck either be with his hand in the ground to make 4 down linemen or roaming around playing linebacker to have 3 linemen. Now, Muschamp's point was that, it's not literally to the players as simple as just standing that guy up because everybody's responsibilities are going to shift around. So, I think he's going to throw a lot at the guys this spring, and depending on how quickly they pick it up will probably depend on how much and how often they're going to be able to actually rep the 3-4 looks as well.
Yeah, it really is an interesting time when you consider that, Muschamp and the staff are in charge with preparing the meal. They're the head chef, and they don't even know what kind of groceries they're working with yet. So the start of spring practice is kind of a chance for them to, see firsthand for the first time what kind of talent they've got on the team, and then they'll have to assess that talent and figure out the best way to utilize all the players that they think are ready to be on the field. So it's an important time period for the Gamecocks from that standpoint. And with spring practice getting underway yesterday, we've got 15 practices scheduled. Yesterday was the first one. And talk about the schedule coming up and what the Gamecock coaches will be looking for. And I know it was a 2-hour workout yesterday, and they really hit the ground running, Wes. They kept a very fast pace in practice, and things are moving quickly, and they're throwing a lot at these players from day one.
Yeah, I would describe it as a frenetic pace. I think, one thing Will Muschamp has talked about is that, and I think we forget, is that these guys are going to have to almost in some cases relearn everything because every coach has a certain way they like things done. And every coach probably practices a little bit different. Every coach has his own pet peeves. Every coach has certain things that are maybe a little bit more important to him than another coach. So while obviously clearly it's still just football, practicing a certain way is something that these guys are going to have to learn. Even us from a media standpoint, this whole open 15-minute session feels kind of like almost like an NFL practice. You get to go out there and see things for just real quick. It's like, all right, y'all are out. Get out of here. Don't know how much you can take from 15 minutes, but I do know one thing. There was an intensity. There was a lot of teaching. There was a lot of yelling, and the 11-on-11 portion that we did see was all about the hurry up, no huddle. Like I almost felt like I was watching a Gus Malzahn practice. The offense hustling to the line of scrimmage, defense obviously hustling to get lined up, and there were times where Emerson there would even be an incomplete pass, but the offense would run up to where the ball hit incomplete just to simulate, if it was complete, how they'd have to hustle to the line of scrimmage, get a play, and get lined up. So the entire focus, it felt like to me, of that 11-on-11 was getting plays in quick, getting lined up quick, and then the defense obviously getting set up quick as well. So, we've heard a lot of talk about how it's going to be a spread, no-huddle type of offense. If that very first session was any indication, that seems to be exactly what it is. It was all shotgun that I saw. It was all 3 receivers that I saw. Sometimes with a tight end and a running back, sometimes with 2 split running backs. But, obviously it's a very, very small snapshot, basically, of what is going to be an entire spring. But if that snapshot was any indication, then it's going to be a lot of high-paced, hurry-up type of spring for the Gamecock.
All right, and to that end, Wes, it sounds like all-season workouts were more difficult this year. Scott Hood's got a piece on the site today talking about the challenge that the all-season workouts presented to the players and the level of difficulty. It sounds like there was just a lot more work put in this off-season in the weight room, and Scott wrote about that. You can read that story on Gamecock Central. Wes, it sounds like the Gamecocks are just getting back to work. I don't know that it's fair to say that South Carolina kind of rested on his laurels after 3 straight 11-win seasons, but I think that's the perception a lot of people have got. So Jeff Dillman, the new strength coach, comes in from Alabama, and he gets to work right away during the off-season workouts, and that's what's helped get this team prepared for what should be a very physically demanding spring practice period.
Yeah, and, I'll be honest. A lot of times I do the more I've done this, the more I kind of take the winter workout reports from the players themselves. I kind of take it with a grain of salt because I can't remember a single year that the players came in and say, "Oh yeah, we didn't work hard this offseason." It's almost always every single spring probably at every program in the country. You hear, we worked harder than ever before. But at the same time, I do think, particularly coming from the very top with Will Muschamp, just a physical mindset that's going to get passed down and a emphasis on toughness that is being passed down. I think those things are very clearly characteristics of this program that have been basically infused into the winter workout program. And I think, we've already seen some transfers. We've talked about it even, right here on the podcast. We've seen transfers already. I'd imagine there will still be transfers. And to me, it's sort of, you got to sort of get in line with the way things are going to be done, or you need to just move on. We've already seen that with some guys. And obviously, I think part of the design of the winter workout program was to find out which of these guys have the dedication and just the want to be a part of this program and to be a part of a program that's run the way it's going to be under Muschamp. Because, even at its most core basic level, you're going from an offensive guy to a defensive guy. So Spurrier, it was about the passing game. It was about finesse. It was about stuff like that at the very core of his thinking. The very core of Muschamp's thinking is going to be defense, stop the run, physicality, be great on the line of scrimmages. So I think we've seen that sort of permeate the program even just a couple of months into Muschamp's tenure.
Yeah, Gamecock linebacker T.J. Holloman told Scott Hood that the off-season workouts were designed to weed out the weak. So the Gamecocks have put in some work this offseason, and we're getting ready with spring football just getting cranked up. First practice took place yesterday. We've got scrimmages coming up on March 26th and April the 2nd, and then the Garnet and Black game will culminate spring practice on Saturday, April the 9th.
That's a pretty good quote, actually. I had not heard that TJ said that. I like that a lot. Weed out the week. I think that's probably perfectly put.
Yeah, interesting time, Wes. Players that played last year have got the proof to the coaching staff that they're going to be able to fit the new schemes that are being installed for both offense and defense. And for players who maybe didn't get as much playing time as they would have liked last year, it's kind of a clean slate for them and a chance to prove what they can do for this new coaching staff and try to get more minutes, more time on the field this year. So a lot of activity with Gamecock football right now. We talked about the defense here on Gamecock Central Radio. Wes, let's talk about the offense a little bit. Kurt Roper, the co-offensive coordinator, you said is putting in this up-tempo spread style of offense, and we know the Gamecocks have 5 scholarship quarterbacks, and Muschamp said openly, flatly, during the press conference 2 days ago that he'd like to whittle that down to 3 that are competing for the starting job by the end of the spring. He'd like to name a starter by the end of the spring, but he doesn't know yet if he's going to be able to do that because we're just getting our feet wet with spring practice. So talk about the offense, talk about the quarterback position.
Yeah, I know he'd like to possibly name a starter, but just my personal opinion and sort of just reading between the lines with his responses to those questions, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to actually name a starter because, I think you look at Perry Orth, you look at Brandon McElwain, you look at Connor Mitch, you look at Lorenzo Nunez. All these guys have some different strengths, and all these guys have some different weaknesses that they're going to bring to the table. And it's going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on what does South Carolina sort of covet in that quarterback position, and it's going to depend on which guys can sort of eliminate their weaknesses or improve on their weaknesses the most throughout the spring. Obviously, I don't think it's any real indicator, but Perry Orth took the first reps in the spring in 11-on-11. Perry Orth, they had one player sort of yell out the cadence, I guess, during the stretching program. That was Perry Orth's job as well. So, I don't know how much we should read into that, but in general, and Connor Mitch took the second reps, but in general, I sort of look at this as those other guys are going to have to pass Perry Orth. I know the staff maybe doesn't look at it like that, or is not going to say they look at it like that, but I look at the fact that Perry Orth has the experience. Perry Orth knows how to run an offense. He knows how to gain the respect of his teammates. He knows how to command a huddle, and he's gone and done it. Now, for South Carolina to be a great football team, obviously they have to continue to upgrade the quarterback position. So I sort of look at Perry Orth as being the guy that we know what South Carolina has with Perry Orth. Everybody else, sort of an unknown, I think. So I think it's up to those other guys to pass basically the bar that Perry Orth has set. And, they'll probably have every opportunity to do that. But, the closer we get to fall, if they can't, then the more likely I think it would be that South Carolina would go with the experience and start a guy like Perry Orth, at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that makes sense. Orth was a starter at the end of last year, and you would think that the job will be his unless somebody goes out and takes it away from him with a superior spring. So we'll keep an eye on this as we move forward. This is Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips with Wes Mitchell. We invite you to download the free phone apps that allow you to listen to Gamecock Central Radio on your phone. We have an iPhone app and an Android app, and we're also on iTunes. All you got to do is search Gamecock Central Radio for all three. Wes, I'm curious to know what's going to happen with Lorenzo Nunez. Will there be packages for him at quarterback? Nunez demonstrated that he's very good in the open field, and I got to believe he's going to be on the field in some capacity. I'm not convinced that it's going to be at quarterback just yet, and I know we're very early in spring ball, but you got to believe that Nunez is going to be on the field in some way, shape, or form. So will he get some will there be some play sets put in just for him at quarterback? Will he be moved to another position? Seems to me Nunez will have to be involved in some way, but we don't have any idea yet what that role exactly is going to be.
Yeah, no answers on that yet. He's been with the quarterbacks. From what I've been told, he's been with the quarterbacks all, off season as far as the meeting rooms. He does actually, believe it or not, he does his conditioning and his weight room work with the skill players, with the receivers. But he's always done that just simply because he's such a good athlete that they knew the only way to push him athletically was to put him with guys that had similar skill sets to him. So, that really doesn't mean anything as far as this goes, but I think it speaks to his athleticism. And, I think even if he sticks at quarterback, I think if a guy like Perry Orth, is the guy, or a guy like Connor is the guy, then you certainly would want to look at some wildcat type packages for someone like Lorenzo Nunez. And, he's got to be sitting out there saying, I see the need at wide receiver. That probably has to be in the back of his mind. Now, the same, we have to remind people, I guess, at the same time that just because a guy's a great athlete doesn't mean he can just go out there to wide receiver and know how to play the position. That would be a full-on transition and something he'd have to dive in head first to do. But, hey, you look at the need there, and obviously if he's third or fourth on the depth chart at quarterback, particularly if he's out of that top three, then I think if you're Nunez, then you maybe even yourself say, hey, coach, can I get a shot at receiver, and then go try to spend the whole rest of the offseason sort of trying to catch on there, because, these other guys at receiver have played the position, most of them their entire life. Nunez, from what I understand, did play with some receiver early in his high school career, so it's not completely foreign to him. I've heard he's got a skill set there, but it would be difficult to actually go do that, absolutely. So, I think that's a question that's not answered yet, but it's something that will be something to monitor throughout the spring.
No question. Nunez good with the ball in his hands. He was good in open space last year, and the Gamecocks will try to find a way to get him the ball again this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Gamecocks playing multiple quarterbacks in 2016, but obviously we got the whole spring to hash that out, and then all of preseason practice as well. So it could end up being one QB. It may be several. We don't know at this point. And Wes, as we continue to move through the spring, obviously we're going to have a lot more information to update our subscribers, our visitors on. A lot of questions right now. Like you said, we don't really know where we stand because we're just getting started. But as these 15 practices start to clip off, we're going to have more to talk about and a lot more information available.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to learning all this along with everyone that listens and reads and watches and all that as well, because it's all new right now. It's new for everybody, which can be scary sometimes for people, but also I think it can be exciting as well.
I agree. A lot more to come here on Gamecock Central Radio. Wes, we appreciate the update today, man. Take care.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, he's Wes Mitchell, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. Plenty more Gamecock football to come. Thanks for joining us today.